The great Galactic Council Hall was filled with beings from hundreds of planets. Tall aliens with shining skin, creatures with 3 heads, and robots made of pure light. All had gathered to see something they believed would be a disaster. In the center of the hall stood Jack, a human from a small blue planet called Earth. He wore a simple black suit. His hands were empty. His face was calm. The council leader, a tall being with silver hair and 6 arms, looked down at him and laughed. "Human," the leader said, "you wish to tame the Korath beast, the deadliest predator of the universe." Jack nodded once. "Yes," he said. His voice was steady. The council whispered and laughed among themselves. It was a joke to them. No one had ever survived the Korath beast. It had destroyed spaceships with one swipe of its claw. It had eaten armies. Even the strongest warriors of the galaxy have failed. "Very well," the leader said, smiling cruelly. "You may try. But know this, if you fail, you will die before our eyes." Jack didn't flinch. He only said, "I accept." The ground beneath Jack opened slowly. A platform rose from the floor. It carried him down into the dark arena below the council hall, a place where many brave souls had met their end. The arena was huge, with tall stone walls and a floor covered in scars and burn marks. High above, thousands of alien eyes watched from their seats, ready to see the humans' defeat. A loud horn sounded. The metal gates across the arena began to open with a heavy, grinding noise. Dust and smoke poured out. From the darkness, the Korath beast appeared. It was bigger than Jack had imagined, bigger than any Earth animal. Its black skin was like armor. Its teeth were as long as swords. Its yellow eyes burned with hatred. Each step it took shook the ground like an earthquake. Some aliens gasped. Others cheered, already expecting blood. Jack stood still. His heart raced in his chest, but he didn't run. He pulled a small device from his belt, a silver object no bigger than a book. It didn't look dangerous at all. Some aliens laughed even harder. "What will he do with that toy?" one sneered. Jack's fingers moved quickly over the device. He set it to the right frequency. He had worked on this plan for years. While others saw the Korath beast as only a monster, Jack had studied it like a scientist. He had learned that even the fiercest creature has patterns, sounds, lights, and smells that can affect its mind. The beast roared, a terrible sound that seemed to tear the air apart. Jack almost dropped the device, but he gripped it tighter. The beast charged. The ground shook harder. Jack's mind screamed at him to run, but he stood firm. At the exact right moment, he pressed the button on his device. A low humming sound filled the arena, too soft for most aliens to hear, but strong enough for the beast's powerful ears. For a second, the Korath beast stumbled. The aliens leaned forward. Was this human actually doing something? Jack took a deep breath. He pressed another button. The sound changed, now a soft rhythm, like a heartbeat. The Korath beast slowed. It shook its massive head, confused. Its claws scraped against the stone floor. It growled, confused but not attacking. Jack took one step forward, then another. The aliens gasped. No one had ever dared to move toward the beast. The council leader narrowed his eyes. "Impossible," he whispered. Jack's plan was simple. Use ancient Earth techniques, hidden inside new technology, to calm the predator. It had worked on lions, tigers, and even the great whales of the oceans. Why not try it here? But he knew this was just the beginning. The beast could snap at any second. One mistake, and he would die like the others. The Korath beast let out a deep, rumbling growl. Its massive tail swung dangerously close to Jack, smashing a piece of the arena wall. Dust filled the air. Jack didn't blink. He adjusted the sound once more. Softer, slower. The beast lowered its head slightly. Jack smiled just a little. Above him, the council members stood frozen. Their laughter was gone. Their faces were serious now. Could this human, this tiny creature from a forgotten planet, really succeed where the greatest warriors have failed. The arena lights dimmed, and for a moment, everything was silent except for the steady hum of Jack's device. The final test was coming. Jack knew it. The Xorith beast would either accept him now, or destroy him, and Jack was ready. He whispered under his breath, "Let's dance, big guy." The beast stared at him with golden eyes that burned like two suns. The battle of wills had begun. The Xorith beast roared again, louder than before. The sound shook the arena walls and made the ground tremble under Jack's feet. Some weak-hearted aliens in the audience covered their ears. Some even left their seats, too scared to watch what was coming. Jack stayed calm. He held the small silver device tightly in his hand. His thumb moved carefully over the buttons. The soft sound continued to play, the secret music that touched something deep inside the monster's mind. The Xorith beast took a slow, heavy step forward. Its sharp claws clicked loudly against the stone floor. Its mouth opened wide, showing rows of long, deadly teeth. A warm, terrible breath filled the air around Jack. Any normal person would have run away screaming. But Jack did not move. The council leader watched from above, his 6 arms folded across his chest, his silver eyes narrowed. "Why is the beast not attacking?" he whispered to one of his advisors. The advisor shook his head. "I don't know. This has never happened before." In the arena, Jack knew he had to move carefully. He could not show fear. The Xorith beast could smell fear the way a shark smells blood. Jack took another small step forward, keeping the sound steady. His heart hammered inside his chest, but he forced himself to breathe slowly. The beast bent down low. Its golden eyes stared directly into Jack's. It was close enough now that Jack could see every scar on its thick black skin. Each scar told a story of battles fought and won. Jack spoke softly, not sure if the creature could even understand. "You're not a monster," he said. "You're just misunderstood." The beast growled, a deep noise that rumbled through the air like thunder. Jack stayed still. He pressed another button on his device. The sound shifted slightly. Now it was slower, deeper, like a mother's heartbeat. The beast blinked once, confused. Above, the council members argued in low voices. "This is witchcraft," one shouted. "No, it's technology," said another. "Or maybe it's courage," whispered a third. The beast circled Jack slowly. Its massive tail swung back and forth, smashing small rocks into dust. Jack turned carefully, always facing the creature, never showing his back, never showing weakness. One wrong move could mean death. The beast sniffed the air around Jack. It made a strange noise, half growl, half whine. Jack held his ground. He felt sweat running down his back, but he showed no fear on his face. In the shadows of the arena, hidden machines recorded everything. Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched the live broadcast. Some cheered for Jack. Some bet on how many seconds he had left to live. But Jack ignored them all. For him, only 2 things mattered now: the beast and survival. The Xorith beast suddenly snapped its jaws, so fast and so close that Jack felt the wind from it brush his face. Gasps filled the arena. Some aliens screamed. Some fainted. Jack didn't move. Inside, he was terrified. But outside, he was a rock. "You'll have to try harder than that," he whispered under his breath. For a moment, there was a terrible silence. Even the air seemed to freeze. Then, slowly, the beast did something no one expected. It sat down. The entire Galactic Council rose to their feet in shock. Some dropped their golden goblets. Some even dropped to their knees. No creature had ever made the Xorith beast sit, not with chains, not with weapons, not even with energy fields. But here, a simple human with nothing but a small device had done it. Jack allowed himself a small smile. But he knew the battle was not over. The beast was confused, not conquered. He had to be careful, very careful. Jack slowly reached into his pocket and pulled out a second device, a small silver ball. He threw it gently to the ground. It broke open, releasing a soft mist, a special earth scent designed to calm wild animals. It smelled like fresh rain and warm grass, a smell no alien creature could resist. The beast sniffed. Its huge chest rose and fell. Its golden eyes softened slightly. Jack took another slow step forward, then another. The beast lowered its head almost to the ground, as if unsure what to do. Above, the council leader slammed his fist against the rail. "This is not possible," he shouted. But it was happening. Right before his eyes, Jack was now only a few feet away from the beast's massive nose. He reached out one shaking hand. The audience held their breath. Would the beast allow his touch, or would it tear him apart? Jack's fingers touched the beast's rough, scared skin. The beast let out a soft sound, not a roar, not a growl, but something almost like a sigh. Jack smiled wider now. "Good boy," he whispered. The audience exploded with noise, cheers, screams, and wild shouts. Across the galaxy, millions watched in disbelief. The first step had been taken. Jack had faced the deadliest predator in the universe, and he was still alive. But deep inside, Jack knew this was just the beginning. The real challenge was still to come. The arena was silent now. The Xoreth beast sat on the ground, breathing heavily, its golden eyes still locked on Jack. The massive creature was calm, but Jack knew better than to trust it completely. For a moment, Jack allowed himself to breathe deeply. The crowd had gone silent too, as they tried to understand what was happening. The beast, the deadliest creature in the galaxy, was sitting like a pet, and the human, the smallest being in the room, was the one controlling it. Jack knew that this wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about showing the galaxy something no one had ever believed, that humans, with their tiny hands and fragile bodies, could do what no other species could. He stood straight, his eyes never leaving the beast. He could feel the eyes of the Galactic Council on him, but he didn't look up. He wasn't here to impress them. He was here to prove something far greater. The council leader, still standing high above in his seat, spoke in a voice that echoed through the arena. "You've tamed the beast, but you are not yet safe, human. The test has only just begun." Jack didn't flinch. "I'm ready." With those words, the leader's expression turned darker. He nodded to his advisors, who began to activate something hidden in the walls of the arena. Suddenly, a loud noise filled the air. The ground shook again, and the Xoreth beast growled, standing up quickly. Jack's heart skipped a beat. Was the beast about to attack? But then, Jack remembered the plan. He had studied the Xoreth beast for years. He knew its every movement, every reaction. And he knew that, despite its power and rage, the beast was still an animal. It had instincts, yes, but it could also be trained. Jack raised his hand, just a little, and the sound from his device changed again. A soft, calming tone filled the air. The beast paused. It wasn't attacking. Instead, it lowered its massive head again, listening. Jack turned his attention back to the council. He could feel their disbelief. They were still trying to figure out how a simple human could control something so deadly. The leader, his face twisted in anger and confusion, finally spoke. "You're not a warrior. You have no weapons. How did you do this? How did you make the Xoreth beast listen to you?" Jack smiled quietly. "You're right. I'm not a warrior. But that's what makes us human." The leader's eyebrows furrowed in confusion. "What does that mean?" Jack took a deep breath. He had been waiting for this moment to finally explain something that no one had ever understood about humans. "We don't rely on strength alone," Jack said, his voice steady. "We don't just fight. We learn. We adapt. We understand." The beast stood fully now, looking at Jack as if it were waiting for something. The sound from Jack's device continued, but now it was softer, almost like a heartbeat, repeating in slow waves. This, Jack continued, is the hidden power of humans. We may be small, but we've survived against creatures far bigger and stronger than us. Not because we fight better, but because we learn better. We find ways to communicate, to understand. The council members were still silent. Jack could see the wheels turning in their minds. They had never thought of humans this way. To them, humans were just another species, weak, small, and easy to ignore. But Jack was showing them something different. He wasn't just using technology to tame the beast. He was using what had made humans successful throughout history: their ability to learn, to adapt, and to survive. Jack turned his gaze back to the Xarath beast, still listening to the sounds. It was calm now, no longer growling or pacing. It was simply listening. The council leader, still holding his throne, finally spoke again. His voice was quieter, almost respectful. "You've done the impossible, but what happens now?" Jack didn't hesitate. "Now I prove that humans don't just survive. We thrive. We can do more than tame beasts. We can unite worlds. We can build peace." The leader's face twisted with a mix of anger and fear. "Peace," he spat. "The galaxy has known nothing but war. What can your kind do about that?" Jack stepped forward, his eyes never leaving the leaders. "We may be small, but we have something none of you have. Hope. We don't give up. We don't quit, and we don't fight because we hate. We fight because we believe in something better." The room was still. The beast was still, too, sitting quietly by Jack's side, as if it had become his protector. The leader shook his head slowly. "You speak of peace, but do you understand the violence of this galaxy? Do you understand what it takes to keep the power?" "I understand," Jack said firmly. "But I also understand that real power isn't about weapons or force. It's about control. Control of the mind, control of the will, and control of what you believe in." The leader's eyes narrowed. "And you think you can bring that to the galaxy? With your tiny hands and empty words?" Jack nodded. "Yes, we have the power to change this galaxy. Not with our strength, but with our minds, our hearts, and our will." The silence in the arena stretched on. For the first time, the council leader didn't know how to respond. The power of Jack's words and the calm of the beast beside him was undeniable. The audience, filled with aliens and creatures from every corner of the galaxy, began to whisper. The whispers grew louder. Jack had shown them something they never expected. He had shown them that humanity wasn't weak. It was powerful. It was the hidden force that could change the galaxy. The test was far from over, but Jack had already won the first battle. The atmosphere in the arena was electric. Jack stood, facing the Galactic Council, while the Xarath beast sat beside him, calm but alert. The entire galaxy was watching. The silent whispers of the Council's disbelief filled the air. Jack had tamed the beast, but now the real test was about to begin. The Galactic leader's voice echoed through the hall. "You speak of peace, human, but there is something you fail to understand. You may have tamed the beast, but you have not yet proven yourself worthy of the galaxy's trust. Your real challenge begins now." The leader's words felt like a thunderclap in the silent arena. Jack could feel the eyes of every being in the galaxy on him. They were waiting for his next move. "Human," the leader continued, "the Xarath beast is a symbol. It is a weapon. And weapons are not to be tamed by anyone, not by your kind. If you wish to prove your worth, you will have to face a greater challenge than the beast. We will put your skills to the test, and you will have no control over the outcome." Jack's heart beat faster, but his face remained calm. The beast was still beside him, but he knew that things were far from over. The leader was right about one thing. The real test had just begun. With a sharp motion, the leader waved his 6 arms, signaling the activation of hidden mechanisms in the arena. Suddenly, the ground beneath Jack and the beast began to rumble. A loud mechanical sound filled the air as metal doors opened, and a new threat emerged from the shadows. The new creature was unlike anything Jack had seen before. It was huge, covered in silver armor, with multiple eyes that glowed a menacing red. Its claws were sharp enough to slice through steel, and its growl sounded like the roar of 1,000 storms. It was a fighter, a weapon built for destruction. "Face the Voker," the leader declared, an ancient war machine, built to end lives, not to tame them. "If you survive this, then maybe, just maybe, we will consider you worthy of our respect." The crowd watched in silence, waiting for the show to begin. The Voker moved towards Jack, its steps heavy and thunderous, its eyes locked onto him with deadly intent. The beast growled beside Jack, sensing the danger, but Jack raised his hand to keep it calm. "Stay back," he whispered to the beast. He knew the beast wouldn't understand the words, but the tone was enough. The beast trusted him. Jack had only moments to act. The Voker was closing in, and its massive claws were ready to strike. Jack quickly reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device. It wasn't a weapon, but it was his only chance. With a press of a button, a high-frequency sound filled the arena, directed at the Voker. It was a signal designed to confuse and disorient its circuits. The Voker paused, its multiple eyes blinking rapidly, its body twitching as it tried to process the unexpected signal. For a moment, it stopped, but only for a moment. The Voker roared in frustration, its massive claws swiping at the air. It was furious now. Jack had only moments before the machine recalibrated and attacked. He needed to move fast. The beast, sensing Jack's urgency, began to growl. It rose from the ground, ready to defend its new companion. But Jack turned to it, his voice steady but urgent. "No, stay back," Jack shouted. "I need to do this alone." The beast paused, its golden eyes narrowing. It understood, or at least, it trusted Jack. It lowered itself back to the ground, watching closely. The Voker, meanwhile, began to advance again, its massive feet shaking the ground beneath Jack's feet. Its claws came down, but Jack was already moving. He darted to the side, narrowly avoiding the swipe. The crowd gasped. The fight was on. Jack quickly ducked behind a large stone pillar, his mind racing. He couldn't fight the Voker head-on. It was too strong, too powerful. But he had something the machine didn't, his human mind. He had to outsmart it. He checked his device. It was still working, but it wouldn't last forever. He had one more trick up his sleeve. Jack closed his eyes for a moment and focused. He remembered what he had learned from Earth's history. The great wars, the famous battles. It wasn't about raw power, it was about tactics. It was about using your opponent's strength against them. The Voker was slow. It was big, but it wasn't agile. And its sensors were designed to track movement, not calculate strategy. Jack had to use that. He ran out from behind the pillar, drawing the Voker's attention. The machine immediately locked its eyes on him, its claws raised for a fatal strike. But Jack was ready. He dove to the side at the last moment, and the Voker's claws smashed into the pillar instead of him. The pillar cracked under the force, but Jack didn't stop. He ran behind the next pillar, drawing the Voker into the same trap. The machine followed, swinging wildly, but Jack was always one step ahead. The Voker roared in anger, and the crowd began to murmur, unsure of what was happening. Was the human actually winning? Finally, Jack reached the last pillar. He knew this was his moment. He pressed a final button on his device, sending out a burst of energy that overloaded the Voker's sensors. The machine paused, its red eyes flickering. It was confused. Jack didn't waste a second. He ran forward, jumping onto the Voker's back and grabbing onto one of its mechanical limbs. With a twist, he pulled a small lever hidden in the machine's arm, and the Voker's internal systems began to shut down. The Voker's movements slowed. It froze in place, its limbs still but no longer a threat. Jack stood on top of the machine. panting. The crowd erupted into applause. He had done it. The impossible was now a reality. But the battle wasn't over. The leader's voice echoed again, this time filled with anger. You may have beaten the Vokar, but this is only the beginning. You have proven your skill, human, but now you will face your greatest challenge. Jack looked up, his eyes burning with determination. He had won the battle. But the war was just starting. The crowd's cheers echoed in Jack's ears, but they felt distant now. He had won the fight against the Vokar, but deep inside, he knew something far worse was coming. The Galactic Council leader's voice had already cut through the applause like a knife, his words filled with anger and fear. You may have beaten the Vokar. The leader's voice echoed through the arena. But now, human, you face the true test, the one that will decide whether you are worthy of this galaxy. Jack's heart raced. He could feel the weight of the leader's words pressing down on him. This wasn't just a challenge anymore. It was a decision, a choice that would decide the fate of his people. Above, the Galactic Council watched, their faces grim, their eyes fixed on him. They had never seen a human do what Jack had done. He had tamed the beast. He had beaten the Vokar. But what was the final test? What could they possibly throw at him next? The leader raised his arms, and the arena went silent again. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Bring it forward, the leader commanded. A strange metallic noise filled the arena as another door opened. This time, it wasn't a creature. It was something different, something more terrifying. From the shadows, a massive glowing orb floated into the center of the arena. It hummed with energy, crackling with power. As it drew closer, Jack could feel the heat from it. His skin prickled as if the very air around him was charged with electricity. The orb slowly began to descend, and as it did, the arena lights flickered, casting strange shadows on the walls. The leader's voice came again, cold and calculated. This is the final test, human, the trial of the mind. You must enter this orb and face your greatest fears. Survive within, and you will have proven your worth. Fail, and you will perish. The words hung in the air like a heavy fog. The trial of the mind. Jack had heard of it before, but only in whispered legends. It was said to be a test like no other. The orb would show you everything you feared, and only those with the strongest minds would make it out alive. Jack stepped forward, his mind already racing. He didn't hesitate. He couldn't afford to. The beast was still by his side, watching him carefully, but this was something Jack would have to do alone. With a deep breath, Jack stepped into the orb, and the world around him changed in an instant. The arena was gone. The bright lights vanished. All that remained was darkness. Jack felt his heart pounding in his chest. He tried to move, but his body felt heavy. The air around him was thick, like he was underwater. And then, out of the darkness, a figure appeared. It was him, but not the Jack standing in the arena. This Jack was different. He was taller, stronger, and his face was twisted with anger. He looked at the real Jack with eyes full of hatred. You're weak, the Shadow Jack sneered. You'll never survive this. You don't deserve to win. Jack's breath caught in his throat. This was his fear, his self-doubt. He had always felt like he wasn't good enough, that he didn't belong here. But he couldn't let this version of himself control him. He had to push forward. No, Jack said firmly. I'm not weak. I've made it this far. The Shadow Jack laughed cruelly. You think you've won. You've just begun. You'll always be a small, weak human. You'll never be able to change anything. The words stung, but Jack didn't flinch. He had faced worse. He had faced battles both inside and outside of himself. This wasn't the real him. It was just a fear, a nightmare. He had to move past it. Jack pushed the Shadow Jack aside and continued forward into the darkness. But as he moved, the darkness began to shift. It wasn't just shadows anymore. The air around him started to twist and warp, taking shapes he couldn't quite understand. Images flashed before his eyes. The earth in flames, his friends falling, his people lost in the chaos. The galaxy was crumbling. Everything he had fought for, everything he believed in, was slipping away. His heart raced again. Could he stop this? Could he save everything? "You're too late," a voice whispered from the darkness. "The galaxy is lost. There's nothing you can do. You can't stop the war." The voice was familiar. It was the voice of his mother. Jack froze, his breath catching in his throat. His mother had always believed in him, always encouraged him to be brave. But now, her voice sounded filled with doubt. "No," Jack shouted, his voice strong. "I will stop this. I will save them." The darkness shifted again, and Jack found himself standing in front of a massive, empty battlefield. Bodies lay scattered across the ground, the dead and the wounded alike. His heart sank. This was his fear, his greatest fear, that he wouldn't be able to save everyone. Tears burned in his eyes, but he refused to cry. He was human, and humans didn't give up. The orb around him began to pulse with light, and the battlefield began to fade. The images, the fears, all began to vanish as Jack held on to the one thing that had kept him alive so far. Hope. "I won't give up," Jack whispered, his voice steady. The light from the orb grew brighter, and with it, the darkness retreated. Jack was back in the arena, standing before the Galactic Council. He was panting, sweating, but he was alive. The leader's face was unreadable. "You've passed the trial of the mind," he said, his voice cold, but something flickered in his eyes. "You have proven that humans are stronger than we thought. You have earned our respect." Jack stood tall, his chest heaving with every breath. He had done it. He had faced his fears, and he had survived. But even though the battle was won, Jack knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy was changing, and he was going to be part of that change. He turned to the beast, who stood beside him, calm and proud. Jack smiled. "Let's go," he said. "The real fight is just starting."